Hello, welcome to the CarCast+Edmunds podcast. Matt, the Motorator DeAndre here with Alistair Weaver. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Matt. How are you?
Doing all right. So we've got some interesting news, not necessarily all EV this time, maybe a little bit of battery power, but certainly performance oriented. So I want to get into that. You hit the track with a car that I'm very, very interested. I saw the other week, but I'm interested in hearing about. Let's hit Bet Online first, and then we'll get into it. Bet Online is your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season, from baseball and golf to soccer and all the top fights in UFC, MMA, and boxing. They have every stat, every matchup, even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with over 150 different slot games. So just head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BELIEVE for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. That's BLEAV for your 50% credit. Bet online, the game starts here. Okay, so I went to I don't know, did you go? I was at WagonFest
I didn't
a
go,
week
no.
a couple of weeks ago at the Petersen Museum. The Avant group was putting on this event, WagonFest, and I had some friends over there, so I swung by, and as you can imagine, it was every kind of wagon you can imagine, from Acura, Saab, uh, Mercedes, BMW, and a lot of Audis. Anybody who's got an Audi Avant, pretty much showed up at the event. And they brought out their race car as well, which was inspiration for the car you're just about to talk about.
Yeah, I remember I was actually saying what was the coolest. Somebody was asking me the other day, what's the coolest like wagon you've ever driven? And I never drove it, but the coolest wagon was actually from the early 90s, was a Volvo touring car that Tom Walkinshaw Racing, TWR, ran. And there was a year, I forget exactly what year it was. I think it was the early 90s. But the British touring car racing at that time was huge, like almost on a global scale.
Yeah.
It's just one of those times where championship catches fire. It just come off like the E30 M3 era, and then every manufacturer was piling in. The budgets were going stupid, everything else. And Volvo decided to get into it, but they realized like the first year was going to be a development year. They weren't going to win. So somebody had the bright idea of why don't we just enter the wagon? So they had an 850 wagon. I wish I should have sent you a picture of it, Matt, so we could have shown everybody. Just Google it. 850 wagon British touring car championship.
Yeah.
This thing was awesome. So when everybody says what's the coolest wagon of all time, that is the clear winner. It was
um,
and it wasn't unsuccessful. I don't think it ever won a race, but it came pretty close a couple of times. I think it was just at the aero 1994 it was. I just think at the aero, apparently there's all sorts of things about where the mass was. Obviously they got high, slightly, the mass is slightly in the wrong place, but it's very cool.
yeah, I'm trying to think of it's the blue and white car, right?
Blue and white car,
Blue
yeah.
and white
Volvo
car.
850 wagon.
Yeah. You know,
British
the
Touring Car
and
Championship.
it's funny because in South Florida, when I was living there, and my earlier years, heading out to the local drag strip before they closed it down, there's a guy out there that just had just like a small block Chevy swapped Volvo wagon, and just hauling, like, completely stripped out, but it just had it making just made it look stock, down to the wheels and everything, and maybe just a little more tire on it, and the thing would just hook and damn near pop wheelies. He had it set up rear wheel drive, and see this
Well,
wagon
they
just
always were
just
rear-wheel
go.
drive. I
It
mean, that
just,
was
I mean, it, I don't know. You could have just had a power glide transmission and just made a drag beast out of it. So, and for a minute there, we had some cool wagons. We had like a CTS-V wagon when the CTS-V came out. That wagon with a manual transmission was a cool car.
yeah. I think going back then, the Volvo 740s and things like that, they were all rear-wheel drive, which is odd because everybody, they were driven mainly in Sweden, which of course, like half the country is covered in snow, which is probably why you end up with such epic rally drivers. But and then Audi and everybody else, and we're about to see this big sort of renaissance of the wagon in the US, not for Not sadly for normal cars, but for performance wagons. Everybody's about to pile in. Well, I say everybody. Mercedes, BMW, and Audi are all going to be going head to head over the next couple of years, which is kind of exciting. I've always looked at it, thought you're right, it's a cool niche. And
Yeah.
I always worried a little bit. There are cars in life which people like you and I get excited about, and nobody ever buys.
Yeah, for sure.
And wagons have always sort of fallen into that category a little bit. But the performance wagons, I think there's enough of a following. Well, clearly,
Well,
Mercedes now and BMW have decided that they need to get into the game.
and look, there's no secret that the the automotive media loves wagons, especially high performance wagons. When the general consumer audience doesn't really embrace them quite as much. And I get it because we're like, hey, we're so in love with SUVs. Why not get one that has a lower center of gravity, better performance overall, probably better fuel economy, better performance, better aerodynamics, better driving dynamics. But for some reason, we all just love the SUVs instead. And granted, the car companies have made some pretty incredible SUVs now that we have these super versions, but it's just something about the a good wagon.
If you look at like a Cayenne Coupe is Porsche Cayenne Coupe is it's kind of like it is an SUV, but when you get it hunkered down on like 22-inch rims or something, it's
Yeah,
almost a wagon or at best a hatchback. But yeah, so I went and drove you probably saw it, the RS6 GT.
I yes, I did see it. Here's for your YouTube guys, quick little
Oh, this is
video
at
clip on my
Petersen, yeah.
Instagram of WagonFest, and we started off with the IMSA car and the RS6 GT, and then there's just a bunch of wagons that kind of showed up at this event to give you an
Got an
idea of sort
850
of
there.
the size and scope. Someone had a little turbo on a BMW. This one's an old Dodge, I believe. Yeah, lineup of
Saab
Saabs, and they were
wagons.
all broken into sections, like by manufacturer.
Oh, I
A
wish
handful
I'd
of
come. This
Dodge.
looks like a
Yeah,
load of fun one.
yeah. There was if you get the audio, I think they're. I don't know if I put the maybe it's just music in there, but they fired up the IMSA car for a little bit as well. And anyway, just 30 seconds of Wagon Fest over there at the SEMA or at the Petersen Museum. RS6. All right, let's get into that. You got a chance to get your hands on this. What makes the GT special?
So this began as a sort of project we just launched the video on it actually as you're listening to this, should have gone live today, but this began as a project for Audi's apprentices back in 2020, I think it was, and they came up with this idea of why don't we, tweak the RS6, give it a more extreme interpretation, manual suspension, bunch of carbon fiber. And then I think that the original concept had sort of side pipes and things like that. But what they ended up doing is say, okay, why don't we do a limited edition run? And so here you are. It's going to be about $200,000 when, as we record this, that Audi hadn't confirmed the exact price in the US. 85 coming, 85 coming out, 85 coming over here. I think they're building 660 globally. So it's about $50,000 more than a RS6 Performance with a bit of kit on it. But for that money, you do get, I mean, objectively, is it worth 50 grand more? Probably not. But what you're buying is the exclusivity. And I hope that the Audi dealers don't mark it up, which is
I mean, if they're only
still
making a
possible.
handful of them, like you're saying, they're are they spoken for already? I mean, you would think.
Apparently not. The Audi people I said apparently not, that basically they'll be distributed to Audi dealers. I mean, obviously only 85, not every Audi dealer is going to get one. So I guess they're going to prioritize on who's been selling the most RS6s. And then, yeah, who knows after that? I'm sure that most of those dealers will have somebody in mind for it. But it's a cool thing. I mean, it takes an RS6. It's then the whole livery, which you just showed in the pictures, but we can describe for those who aren't watching on YouTube. It takes inspiration from an IMSA car, which was very successful back in 1990, and in itself was kind of inspired by the colors of the Audi rally cars from the early 80s, like the Group B era. So it's white, red, black, And in Europe, you can have it in 5 different colors. In the US, you can only have it in the white. And I think I said in the video, which kind of reminded me when you showed me the footage from the Petersen video, kind of said it's perfect for cars and coffee,
Yeah.
but you might feel a bit self-conscious, like nipping down the local Whole Foods.
Yeah.
Because in the US, you can't have. There's a black one in Europe that looks really cool because it's just very sleeper. In the US, we're only going to have like the white version, which is very in your face.
Yeah. And the graphics are, they're not painted on, right? It's all stickers,
I
probably.
think it's just stickers, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably just stickers. So, but you're right. That's the exclusivity of it. That's the look. So when you see that one anywhere at your Cars and Coffee, you know somebody paid, the 200,000 plus, probably the other 100,000 in dealer markup to get it. But as the car gets, all of these cars, so many cars have gotten bigger and heavier. They've done a number of things on this car. Like you were saying, the carbon fiber isn't just cosmetic. It's not like mirror caps and stuff like that. Like they've done carbon ceramic brakes, carbon fiber hood, I think front fenders.
Yeah, bizarrely, it's the first Audi with a first Audi ever with a carbon fiber hood, which was a bit of a surprise. Also got carbon fiber front fenders, 22-inch rims, which aren't carbon; they're actually forged aluminum. There's behind the front wheels, they've got like a little vent to help with brake cooling to give somewhere with a hot air to go. So
Yeah.
that's why they're kind of fostered in carbon fiber. There you go, great shot of it on YouTube. Then they've got adjustable coilover suspension. So it drops the car by about 0.4 of an inch, which doesn't sound like much, but they've dropped it and also taken off the roof bars. This is the first time that you've had without roof bars on an RS6, and that the overall impression that makes the whole thing feel a lot more hunkered down.
Yeah. I have
Front
thoughts on that too, by the way. I went to the Wagon Fest, and I know, especially the wagon guys, they love having the big
roof rails.
and the storage unit up on the top. Basically, they have the pod up there when there's probably nothing in it because it's more about the look. I do not care for the look. I I just don't like it. I just don't get it. I don't like it. And I get you're like, this is a super fast wagon and it has so much functionality. You can put stuff in it. You can put stuff on top of it. I'm like, it's fine. I'd get it. I wouldn't put anything in it. I wouldn't put anything on top of it. I would drive it like a sports car. But I just don't get the big the big container on the
No,
on the
well, why don't
roof.
you put a load of weight and ruin the aerodynamics, increase the fuel consumption, put a ton of weight where you don't want
And
it?
and on these cars where they're trying to like lower the center of gravity, and especially the GT, I'm glad it doesn't have the roof rails, because if it did, and somebody put the container up there, I'm like, this is the car that has a like a carbon fiber roof. It's trying to make it as light as possible, as
Well,
high
that
as
was one bit that was
possible.
surprising. The roof isn't carbon. I guess it was just too
Yeah,
expensive to do, but everything, because a lot of it's hand built as well. It's hand built on the same place where they build the R8 GT or built the R8
yeah.
GT. So probably had a bit of spare capacity now the R8 sadly dead. What else they did? I'm just looking at my list. Stiffer stabilizers, 30% stiffer at the front, 80% the rear, three-way adjustable, manually adjustable damping. But this, we talked about this before on the show. Like to adjust the suspension, there's a little kit in the boot. So like a couple of spanners, and then
Yeah.
you have to jack the car up, climb underneath, and like give it a twist. So,
But that would
like,
be
at
to
what point are you
adjust
gonna?
that would be to adjust the ride height. Is
No,
there
that's dampers. It doesn't adjust the ride height.
Oh, really? That seems odd. Why wouldn't there be just sort of
A
a
button.
valve or a knob or something on top
Yeah,
of on top of the shock, on top of the strut, whatever they're, the
I think it's
coilover.
probably for the effect. But yeah, you have to you basically have to jack it up and then clamber underneath and get your spanner out and give it a click. We've talked about this before. It's silly, but it's you're never
Yeah.
going to do it, are you? You're just going to like show you, say, hey, here's a toolkit. Like this is how I give myself an extra click.
Right. And then also you never want to use it because you don't want to like scuff it up or mar it, be like, oh, you've
No.
used it. Like, no, it's a collector's item. Years from now, when this car shows up for sale at auction somewhere, they're gonna go, do you have the toolkit? Because that's
Yeah.
gonna be a big thing. Do you have the spanner for the coilovers? Oh, you don't? Knock 50 grand off the car if you don't have that.
Yeah. It's like
But
not having the box for the, original Monaco or something.
yeah, right. Uh,
Uh, but
okay.
the weight savings, so carbon ceramic brakes, hand built, no roof rails, just the white paint job. Inside a few GT badges, but nothing major. Apart from in the car we had, which they brought over as a European spec car and had these really cool carbon fiber buckets.
Yeah.
And they were kind of like having a chat to some of the guys there, and they aren't coming to the US. And like
Americans are
apparently,
too fat, right?
yes,
That's
that's
basically what you
why.
were going to say. I figured I'd
That's
say
why
it instead of you as the British guy looking at me going, "Oh, yeah, Americans are too fat, so we don't get those
it,
seats." I get it.
it's apparent there was something about extra crash, but basically, yeah, it's because they're fixed carbon buckets
Yeah.
and American asses are bigger than European bottoms.
Apparently, certainly German bottoms, right? A German engineer. If
German
you're,
engineering bottoms, I suspect, are
yeah,
quite.
which is, which makes sense because like every time you go to the track and you're there with the engineers and they're all with the same shirts on, they're all the tiniest dudes, the skinniest dudes.
I think it's probably that kind of like engineering precision that you're not allowed to carry any extra
I
ounces of the
guess. I
car.
mean, also, and I don't know if this is a European thing compared to Americans, but they're all like skinny, but never look like they've actually lifted a weight. Like no real
No,
muscle definition.
more like me.
Yeah, they're all kind of shaped like you,
They're
Alistair.
just like a thinner version of me, basically.
Yeah, or shorter at least.
Shorter and
Shorter.
thinner version of me. Yeah. If my arms were short, I'd have biceps, you know?
But you're kind of Kermit the Frog arms, just
Exactly. Mr.
just
Tickle.
anyway, so with the
But
car,
anyway,
they
and
don't
after
get the
all of
cool
that,
seats.
don't get the cool seats. You're saving in total about £18 on a car that is
Yeah.
already nearly £5,000. So the weight saving is basically irrelevant. But it's cool. It's a cool thing. The white paint job is not really me. I'd feel a bit silly at times. But the overall car, I love an RS6 in a sleeper trim
Yeah.
is absolutely like probably my ideal car in the world at the moment. This thing, I only drove it on the track, Streets of Willow, which is still up for sale, but apparently there's a lot of interest in buying Willow Springs racetrack. I'd heard that they turned down a 30 million offer, but that's only a rumor. Um, it's so I only drove it on the track, so I haven't experienced like the ride quality on the road because obviously they've stiffened everything up. Years ago, I remember like I've driven pretty much every RS generation, even the ones that didn't come to the US, and it always felt like a really big, heavy car because it was a big, heavy car.
Yeah.
And this thing felt a lot more lithe and agile. And I don't know whether that's because they've done a fantastic job with the new suspension. They've retuned the rear diff. It can do 85% of the power now can be sent to the rear. Everything's been tuned to give it a bit more agility and make it feel pointy. But maybe it's just also because I drive so many EVs, so many SUVs that now like a £5,000 or nearly £5,000 RS6 feels lithe and agile and
Yeah.
small and all the rest of it. But it felt good, honestly. If you leant on it, there was still like an innate sense of push in it because just the sheer weight of the thing, there's so much inertia that it will start, you do like all road cars, there's a tendency to drift towards understeer rather than front end push, but it felt good. The one thing they haven't done is they haven't messed around with the engine. The engine is still the same. But it's still got 621 horsepower, so 4-litre twin turbo V8. They're saying 0 to 60 now in 3.2, 10th faster. Don't know how they work that out. Maybe it's to do with the diff or something. And they've increased the top speed to 190 miles an hour. So, it's properly fast. It sounds good. 8-speed auto gearbox. It's just a great it's a great family
Yeah.
car.
And this is sort of a farewell to the current generation RS6, this platform. Is this why they're doing it? Because we kind of
Well,
see,
they were
yeah,
being a bit defensive about that because that's what I said. This is like the big hurrah for the RS6, and then there'll be like a plug-in hybrid or something in the future. But they reckon there's still maybe a couple of years to go. I thought it was about to die, but
yeah.
the Audi guys were saying no, we've got a little bit of time left with this car, so
Because
we shall
because it
see.
feels like kind of a goodbye. Like then again, Nissan has been doing it to the GTR, it seems like, for a few years.
Yeah, it's finally
And
dying though.
it finally is dying, but to your point about this car feeling more controlled and nimble and lighter, once you're given years and years to fine tune the car, again, like the GTR has been over the years, we've gone from a 480 horsepower GTR, which was, by the way, like $60,000 to wherever we are now with the, limited edition Nismo, whatever, and we're all up in the $200,000 range. But what they've been able to milk from that platform, refine that thing into a more precise tool. And yeah, when that car came out, we all looking at it going, it's heavy. This car's heavy. It's
Yeah.
all-wheel drive and this transaxle and now we're like, it still puts down performance numbers that are hard to beat with a gas engine vehicle. And I just think just time on the job has allowed Audi to refine this car into something special.
Yeah, it's a great car, and obviously we talked about earlier, BMW is going to come into the market with an M5 wagon. There's going to be an E63 wagon. Mercedes hasn't had an E-Class wagon, AMG wagon for a while. They're going to bring that back, or at least rumored to be bringing that back. And of course, at that price, 200 grand, you're also up against things like the Cayenne Turbo GT, which is
Yeah.
awesome. Things, I guess, other things. I mean, Audi itself has an RS, what is it? RSQ8. Is that right? Yeah, RSQ8, which is
Yeah.
their SUV with the same engine, which in itself are sort of like mini versions of a Lamborghini Urus. But the wagon's cooler.
I would agree. Dollar for dollar, as good as Porsche is, a Cayenne GT versus this, the RS6 GT, I'd put my money on the RS6 GT. First of all, the collectability, the resale value of it
Yeah.
later, even with a bit of a markup price, if you don't get too screwed on that, is going to hold its value. The Cayenne GT will be a cool car and do well, but Cayennes in general, there's just so many and there's so many variations that it's not a 911. It just doesn't hold its value like a 911 would. And I think this is a shot at Audi to have something go up in value from a collector standpoint. And if you like the car and you're like, hey, I don't really like the graphics, like you were saying, it's not really an everyday driver,
Mm.
chances are you have the Cayenne GT or another Audi Avant or something in your garage that you park this thing next to, probably several other cars.
The guy, one of the PR guys, turned up in a blue, like a base RS6. Well, they're all RS6 performance now, but it was basically a sort of base as they get now with smaller wheels in just a sort of like mid blue. It just looks so good.
Yeah.
Like total sleeper car. It's actually in the video. If you watch the video, we kind of compared it to the GT. And the nice thing about the Audi, looking at the BMW is going to have a ton more power, 717 horsepower versus the Audi 621. But a
Yeah.
lot of that comes from the fact that it's plug-in hybrid. And I know everybody's been talking about the M5 sedan weighing what, 5,500 pounds. The wagon's going to be a little bit heavier than that still. I mean,
Yeah.
this is where the dynamics, and we just went out and drove. Jonathan O'Fallon, our head of testing, went out and drove the prototype of the M5 sedan, and he really enjoyed that and just the performance that it gives you. But there's still, it's just so heavy. And then the Merc is going to be, there's no way the Merc's going to be significantly lighter than that, because a C-Class, a C63 AMG, which is the new plug-in hybrid C-Class, that's 750 pounds, which is over 850 pounds heavier than the previous generation car. As soon as you bolt in all this, like basically the plug-in hybrid stuff, just gets so heavy.
It is. Actually, I want to get into the M5 a little bit more, but let's do this. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Okay, talking about the BMW M5 and cars just getting heavier in general, larger. Obviously, we've talked over the years about the 911 just growing and growing and growing, and by like look at the last air-cooled 911 compared to where we are now. I mean, certainly there's a handful of liquid-cooled versions that are there, but air-cooled 911 like the one you're driving now, when you take home a 911, a modern day 911 press car, and park them side by side, it's got to be like my 95 F-150 sitting next to my 2022 F-150. Like one of them's the size of a Ford Ranger today, and the other one is massive.
Yeah, I was just looking up actually while we were on the break, the mass of my car, the weight of my car. Mine's 1,100 kilos, or just under 2,500 pounds, which,
Yeah, that's
so
light.
that is less than half. So basically you can have two 993 Carreras, which is what I have, a 1997 car, and it's still lighter than the new BMW M5.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Your car 2,500. I didn't even know it was that light. Like,
Yeah.
no secret, I've got Mustangs back here. The 93 Mustang Cobra is about 3,200 pounds, and that's with an iron block, iron head,
Yeah, they
small
were
block
never
Ford.
trying to be lightweight, were they? I mean,
No,
it's a muscle car. They were like big lump. The whole point was a big lump of Detroit iron. That was
I,
like almost a selling point.
I mean, anybody that was doing some kind of, track racing on the thing, not drag strip, like taking it to a road course, if you know god forbid if you swapped out the engine for all aluminum, the amount of weight you cut off, but just aluminum heads, just swapping out aluminum heads saves something like 60 pounds off the front end of the car. And then if you were stripping off like air conditioning and stuff, like you're taking a bunch of weight off the front of the pound, and it only started at 3,200 pounds. But now we have a BMW M5 that
Yeah, I was just looking at that 911 the new GTS hybrid, which is not a plug-in hybrid, and that
yeah.
saves you some weight. Yeah, that's 3,500 pounds in round figures. So you've added 50% mass from the 993 to today. And if you think about the 993, obviously there was the RS version which saved weight, but there was nothing trick about it. They were never trying to, they were never trying to save, it hasn't got carbon fiber, hasn't got this, hasn't got that. It's just a steel-bodied 911. There's nothing
Yeah.
clever about it.
So we have a modern day M3, twin turbo V8, hybrid powertrain, a bit of a battery on there now, all-wheel drive. And even when they try to throw in things like plastic oil pan and carbon fiber roof, you know, try to cut weight, which always makes me nervous, by the way, because BMW's done this before when they're like, we're going to plastic oil pan, plastic oil pump gears, or water pump gear, or impeller and stuff. And those are the things that break. It's just so much heat cycling, it just never lasts. So immediately you're going to start wanting to replace those things, it seems like. I'm not saying for sure because the car is not out yet, but they cut all that weight and you're still left with, I don't know, what an F-250, a Ford F-150 is about 5,100 pounds.
Yeah, so we did a little feature on, if you go to edmunds.com/news, somebody had the bright idea, definitely not me, to come up with a feature that was like, what does the new M5, everything that's lighter than the new BMW
Yeah.
M5.
This is all
So
done with a sense of humor, but yeah, it's
yeah,
fine.
but a 2024 Ford F-150 King Ranch, so that's like the posh version of the F-150. Um, two Mazda Miatas, well, I guess, or two Porsche 911 993s, a Rhino,
A rhino.
which as a trustee of Save the Rhino is good to hear, and then a light aeroplane as well.
Yeah, but it's a twin engine airplane. That's not even like a single engine airplane. It's a
A
twin engine
Diamond
airplane.
DA42, whatever that is.
The M5 is close to 5,400 pounds. BMW is saying 5,390 pounds.
Yeah, so that's a
And
full-size truck.
it's over
That's
1,000 pounds more than the outgoing edition. 1,045 pounds.
I mean, I get the hybrid thing. I get the plug-in hybrid thing. A lot of it's driven by European legislation and, the politics around that and everything else. So, there's reasons why they have to go down this route, but you can't help thinking that to some extent we're like chasing the wrong targets here. If all your solution to everything is add horsepower, add weight, yeah, it's got 717 horsepower, but it's also like 1,000 pounds heavier. So it just feels like, we end up in the wrong
Yeah.
place, because then you need bigger brakes, you need bigger cooling, you need bigger, you've got more tire wear, which in itself is emissions. It's if you're not using the hybrid, let's face it, plug-in hybrids in my experience, if you go long distance, you burn through the electric bit, and then you're just running on the gas engine, but towing along all the hybrid system with you. So like the real world fuel consumption is going to be pretty dire. It just doesn't feel like the way forward. And plus
Well,
all the crash safety and everything else. Yeah, fine if you're sat in it, but if you've got a 7,000 or 5,500 pound car hitting a smaller,
well, a Rhino
lighter
or a Miata.
SUV.
If you hit a
Yeah,
Rhino
hitting a
or a
Miata,
Miata,
like you don't want,
yeah,
it's this is schoolboy physics, isn't it?
yeah.
Momentum is mass times velocity. If you've got a ton of mass, it's not.
Well,
So
so
I'm getting more and more concerned about this. Everything's just getting stupid heavy. EVs have got an excuse in a way. Batteries are heavy, but yeah,
so yeah, you're right. This kind of looks like the result of regulation because
yeah,
you're adding power and you're adding batteries and electric motor to get 25 miles or so of electric range and sure it kind of goes on and off. You can maybe it slightly improves the overall MPG of the car, but it's not doubling it. And when you're adding all that weight, it's kind of defeating the purpose. That's why it feels like regulation is forcing this and not really the end result. Now, this may be a little bit different case with the 911 hybrid that's coming out that I'm not sure you guys have driven yet, or maybe you're in the process of.
we are in the process, but it's still under embargo. But I mean, the 911 hybrid is slightly different in that's actually using technology to give you more torque and actually is tuned for performance. I think the BMW is a bit more legislation led, and you know, I'm sure from Jonathan who drove it's gonna, it drives extremely well, but you can't never fully escape the weight of the thing in the same way that you can't ever escape the weight of EVs. But the EVs have the advantage of the batteries being down low and the central gravity being low. But it kind of led to think, are we almost past the like peak driver's car? I mean, we talked about 911s. Like, if you want probably like a modern 911 as the absolute driver's thing, then the 997, not as
Yeah.
fast as a current car, either round a corner or in a straight line, but just as a driver's car, that was a pretty sensational thing.
Okay, so if you're talking about like the the driver's car, right? The M5 is a performance car, the 911 a performance car. And the 911 is going to be a good apples to apples comparison because you'll be able to buy the non-hybrid version and the hybrid version in the same showroom and you can look at those performance numbers and weights and see what it does. Even on some extent, McLaren, you guys drove, I think recently the Atura, right? So
Yeah.
what does that weigh compared to whatever the direct competitor, like a 670 or something? Probably not a 720S, but like a 670 or something. And are they just doing, they're probably going to a smaller gas engine like Ferrari did, right? Like a smaller gas engine, a 6-cylinder or something, and combining it with an electric motor and a battery to kind of offset the weight of what was normally an 8-cylinder. But BMW is taking an 8-cylinder and adding
Yeah, they've got a
batteries and
4.4 liter V8 twin turbo,
yeah, which they had one,
and that's
and
what
now
you
they're
start with.
and not to mention you're just adding on to things that are potentially breaking, right? Uh, you already have a V8, and then you have twin turbo on top of that, and now an electric motor, and the battery system. They're just keep stacking it on, and
And bear in mind this stuff as well. This £5,500 or 390. So the wagon's going to be the best part of 5,500. That's without people. If
yeah,
you put
without
that, if
people in it.
you think about, like, by the time it's got, or used as a wagon should be with stuff in it, if you go on vacation with a family of four and your luggage, like, I'm
Yeah,
going to struggle with my man, I suppose, 200 to 400, 600. You can
yeah.
almost add another £1,000, but obviously, particularly in America, Matt, but
Yeah,
you can add a
if
£1,000
you
to
of Americans, you can add about 600
that.
pounds of German engineering weight of German engineers.
Yeah, I
Uh,
gotta gotta.
yeah. Plus, they get the
It's
sport seat, so yeah, the lighter weight
Yeah.
seat.
So £1,000. So you're basically chugging around at a £6,500 car, which is nuts.
Yeah, and you're not doing it, in a pickup truck or like
It's all, I mean, these things
an
are
Escalade.
unbelievably clever from a technology perspective to get an electric motor working with a gas engine and all the rest of it. but it just doesn't feel like the intelligence is being pointed in the right direction somehow.
Well, part of the issue, well, like we were saying, I think regulation is forcing the issue before it can be fully worked out. And of course, the electric motor adding the extra power sort of is trying to offset the weight. It's not going to, performance wise, we have quick 0 to 60 times, quick, you know, quarter mile times, but we haven't really figured out yet how to reduce the weight of those added components. We can go, hey, we're doing lighter weight wheels, lighter weight brakes, carbon fiber body panels, and magnesium transfer cases if we're going to get that far on certain cars. But when it comes to like the battery and the electric motor, we're nobody's really innovating on weight reduction aside from maybe like a Koenigsegg, and he's trying to do like a small, tiny electric motor that's incredible power because it's all about weight savings with that
Yeah, or
guy.
the
But
Gordon Murray car, yeah. The
yeah, or
Gordon
yeah,
Murray fan
right,
car.
Gordon
Yeah.
Murray or something like that. Like, I, you know, I we just don't have it there yet. And the big thing being the battery first is how do you reduce the weight of batteries? By a significant amount. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, maybe
20
when we
to
go to solid
50%.
state and things like that, and then we'll have some, it'll start to come back. But the other problem is, I mean, we've seen it with all the EVs as well. You want to add range, you add battery, that adds weight. So then you got to have more cooling, and then you just get into this kind of vicious circle. Then you need more
Yeah.
horsepower, and then you burn more electrons. It's kind of depressing at the moment, and it's just always the problem with legislation as well. I mean, a lot of it's been driven out of Europe, all the plug-in hybrid stuff, and obviously these are European cars, so Europe went pushing diesel forever, and then Dieselgate happened, and
Yep.
everybody pivoted and got out of diesels. But the great irony is they got out of diesels just at the point where diesels were like super clean in the way forward, less CO2, and as long as you had the what do you call it, like uh the the treatment stuff attached to it, then actually they're very clean. But
Yeah.
politically, you couldn't sell that anymore.
Right. And in the media, like it's done. Like,
It's done.
it
Dieselgate was like,
it
it's done.
it got
You can't.
hurt so badly in the media that no one wants to touch diesel
Yeah,
now,
and now
unless
it's
you're
like,
hauling
hey,
something.
yeah. And now it's like, oh, plug-in hybrid, that's great. Well, maybe.
I mean, sure, if it's built from the ground up, if it's a Camry, you know,
Yeah. I mean, the
and you're
Camry seems like a good solution. That's not a plug-in hybrid. It's just a straight hybrid. Every vehicle is a
yeah,
hybrid. Happy days.
right, and it's 50
Eco-
miles to the gallon.
Yeah. Economies of scale,
You
not
know,
trying to be a performance car, good value, sensible, spacious, family transport. Done.
yes. But if you said an M5 hybrid, plug-in hybrid was going to go from, you know, 13 and a half miles per gallon to 28 miles per gallon. I'm like, oh, this is interesting now. The hybrid is
Yeah.
doing something here. But instead, you're like, it's going to go from 13 to 17,
Yeah.
if we're lucky. And so I don't know it's going to be that
I'm not even sure
beneficial
it's going
to
to do that because it weighs 1,000
because it
pounds more.
weighs, yeah, closer to
And that's the problem.
1100.
Maybe on a government test, it
Yeah.
looks a lot more economical, but in the real world, probably not. I mean, we
No,
have a
it,
plug-in
it,
we have a plug-in hybrid Grand Cherokee on the fleet, which keeps breaking down incidentally. But that's I took it up to Lake Tahoe for Thanksgiving with the family, and the reality is the electric motor burns off pretty quickly. Then all you're doing is lugging around
yeah,
everything else.
yeah, you are. And it's not the best, again, not the best plug-in hybrid, not the best for any long trip. We're already
No,
stressing out about EV range, but now plug-in hybrid range. Everyone's like, yeah, it's that commute to work. You go 5 miles to work each day, 10 miles to work each day. It kicks in. And I go, yeah, but what if I have to travel 100 miles? Now I'm just hauling it around for 75 of
just
that 100 miles,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know? Like I was
I remember.
stressing about last week going to San Diego and the Lightning and the charge times and where am I going to go? Like it wasn't convenient.
I remember in Holland, Netherlands, they did for a while. They had this tax break, which basically said if you buy a plug-in hybrid, and I think at the time Volvo did it, and I think Mitsubishi was basically two brands that did plug-in hybrids. This is going back a while, and they did this huge tax break, so everybody bought the same car. And then they did like an analysis afterwards of how many people ever plugged them in. It was something like 15% of people ever plugged them in. So all you were doing was the whole country was going around in plug-in hybrids that nobody ever plugged in.
Yeah, you're right. And listen, honestly, we're talking about the Camry again. That's why the Camry is smart. It's not plug-in
Yeah.
hybrid, and you don't even think about it. Like my mom drives a RAV4 hybrid, and I don't even know if she knows it's a hybrid when we
Oh.
got it.
But
I was
that's
just
kind of
like,
that's the good use of the technology.
yeah, it
That's
gets
where that's kind of when it works.
yeah, decent gas mileage. You don't have to plug it in. I believe it came with a better powertrain warranty because of the hybrid system compared to the gas engine, by the way. And it's fine, and
Yeah.
you don't even notice it. It's pretty seamless because it's not like the engine makes a lot of noise anyway. It's not like an Aventador or something. Whatever the new hybrid is, Lamborghini,
Yeah.
where the 10 cylinder or 12 cylinder has to fire up behind you. You're like, what just happened? Although that's fun. It's not that at all. But um, okay, so before we wrap up, I know it's been a couple of weeks now, but we're shedding a tear for the GT500, a car that I think you guys thoroughly enjoyed and put something like what 30,000 miles on that car.
Yeah, I think it's even more than that. Yeah, this is the longest goodbye. This is the car that was supposed to sell during the pandemic, and then we didn't, and then we kind of kept coming up with an excuse to keep it. But the great irony is, by the time we sold it, I think like the car cost us like I think the price that we sold it at versus what we think. I mean, the car almost like paid for itself. So it was a great thing. That I think I wish I'd had the money. Um, to buy it myself because to be honest, I think that we talk about future classics, but that is a really great car. Be interested to see what Ford does with. They're going to do a GT500 version of this generation Mustang.
Yeah,
Depending on what car that is, I think will define how much of a kind of classic status the outgoing GT500 is. But it's just a fantastic thing. And we had it in Soma. This was the car we talked about previous show, but this is the car that inspired the whole Edmunds U-Drags concept, where we realized it was just getting whooped in drag races. And then we said if we put a brake in and a corner into this, it would just really play to this car's strength. So this where we came up with the idea of having the U-Drags concept. So we actually had a brake and a corner.
and you
And
guys did a little farewell compilation video of all the races that you guys put it up against.
yeah, this
And
was I
I
think the
what
one
Dodge Challenger
that's a black
CT5
ghost.
Blackwing. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, see, there's loads of
Yeah,
what's that? Yeah,
there's
see
the
there's the
Cadillac.
black. Yeah,
We're just scrolling through the video a little bit. The Corvette Z06, that's a
yeah.
that's
I
a
think it
fun
lost
one.
the Z06, but the Z06 is like a that's
Yeah.
that's a proper supercar. No, it was great, and there was about a period of probably over a year where every time I went home in it, I was like, oh, it's the last time I'm going to drive it. And then we're like, oh, we got another U-Drags coming up. Let's hang on to it a bit longer.
Just to go out there and see what it does.
Exactly.
Everything
No,
should be.
it's a
It's
very
funny you
cool
did
thing.
M8 and then M4, which I kind of like that to go against the two
Yeah, the
different
M8
generations.
is a bit of a forgotten car, but is BMW is just so good at like launching, and of course the M8 is the X-Drive is all-wheel drive, so it just launches really hard. But this also, what's an M8? 170 grand or something? M8 competition. So it's twice the price, but
Yeah.
much, and also just very accessible. Like I had it on Willow Springs, things like that. You can slide that thing around. There it'll break traction super easily, but it's very accessible. It was just a brilliant, brilliant car. I'm gonna get tearful again.
You know, I dropped off my Lightning to get the suspension stuff fixed on it. It's not broken. I've been modifying it. And we had some prototype springs and they're a little low in the back, so it's sitting on the bump stops and it's incredibly uncomfortable to drive because there's no rear suspension, and we just had to do a couple 100 miles road trip in it. And I think everyone in the car, the dogs, everyone's like, "Oh, my teeth hurt from rattling my teeth." But it gives me the opportunity to spend a couple more days driving my twin turbo Mach 1, and with the tune in it and that thing dialed in, that turbo around 4,000 RPM, that turbo hits hard. I don't care what your gear you're in. If you got your foot in it, it's breaking it loose. Like you're in third gear. As soon as it hits about 4,000 RPM, the back just comes loose on you. It's
So it's like an early 911 then, or something like the
yeah.
Widowmaker, wasn't it?
I'm eager to have you guys drive it and have some fun with it, just to see, because it's it's easy to drive around town, because that part throttle, especially at lower RPMs, you don't really notice it. And we did an audio system, so it's got some sound deadening, some extra sound deadening, and so you don't really notice it. But you go by somebody and anybody pulls up next to you, you go, your car makes a loud whoosh noise. I go, yeah, that's a V8 feeding twin turbos. There's a lot of whoosh involved.
Have you a little wastegate?
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
lot of that involved.
I miss old-fashioned turbos where you really felt them kick in.
Yeah, it feels like that. It definitely feels like that. It's like you were saying when we're talking about your 93 Mustang, or the
Mm.
93 Mustang Cobra, and the Porsche. It's just muscle car engine with turbo slapped on it. It still has something
I
very old school about it.
I once drove a 700 horsepower Mitsubishi Evo, which
Yeah.
God knows they wouldn't tell me what the boost pressure was, but just terrifying. It was terrifying because like nothing happened, bang, like just when you don't expect it.
Yeah.
Like I would have just been absolutely terrified of this thing because it was nothing, like a billion pounds of boost.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's a ton. I think I'm running 10 pounds of boost in mine, and that's on 91 octane. So we
Yeah.
just run it. We just did a street tune in it. I'm sure there's a way, we can get some more out of it with some race gas, or, even 93 octane, but we're just
Yeah, a bit of
a
octane
safe
booster.
tune for LA just to drive it on the street. Anyway, it's a fun car. But
We'll get it
um
down the track. I'm off on vacation, but as soon as I'm back from vacation, let's get down the track.
yeah, well, have a good time. Maybe we'll talk to you while you're away, but if not, we've got plenty more shows coming at, and more Edmunds guys. I had enjoyed the talk last week with Clint.
Yeah, Clint's great, and we got it'd be nice to bring some more people on and spread the love.
All right, guys, thanks so much. Of course, Edmunds.com is the website. You can follow us on social media. You know where all of our accounts are. And if you go to the website, Believe is where the podcast is hosted, and I put all the social media links on there as well. So if you search for CarCast, you'll probably find that. But until next time, keep the air in the spare and the bag in the wheel.